Hello, everyone. What a pleasure to be with you today for this new webinar on the topic of circular economy. I will be going through some of the foundations of the circular economy. And from that, I will be taking you through a big case study about the automotive industry and then a series of initiatives procurement can lead on the circular economy with a few mini cases that I will be using to illustrate these 6 types of initiative. I'm Hervé Legendre, I'm the head of EIPM Research, and always a pleasure to be with people from all over the world. We have attendants from the Philippines to the US and from Argentina to Finland. So really an international crowd today, over 100 people for this webinar. So first, let me take you a little bit through the stakes related to the circular economy. I think if we want to be pretty straightforward, the circular economy is a concept that has been developing because of the challenge we have with resources. Whether we look at energy of raw materials we extract from the ground, the situation is quite concerning, in fact. We've got 1/5 of the resources that we extract from Earth every year. That's directly going to a waste. So every 5 years, everything we've extracted, is going to, on average, is going to the waste. And we're going to need 60% more resources by 2060. So that's a continuous growth due to the demography, but also urbanization and economic development that are going hand in hand in order to call for more resources. At the same time, the carbon footprint of the humanity is largely due 55% to the greenhouse gas emission coming from the extraction and processing of raw materials. And one of the challenge is the energy transition that can help us to address, the challenge related to decarbonation and climate change. Is actually extremely resource intensive. We will need millions of tons of minerals, billions of tons of minerals in order to make that transition. All this in a context of global tension rising. So the picture is concerning about our access to different resources to sustain our future, the impact in terms of climate change, biodiversity, and some of the other environmental and sometimes social factors. So in this context, let's be very clear. We don't have a good economy forward if we are not moving to a circular economy. It's not a little nice thing that we can use from time to time. It's something that is going to become inevitable. In the future, we'll be bumping into resource bottlenecks. Some of them will be temporary, and some of them will grow. And we know the impact of these resource bottlenecks on the volatility of market and difficulties of provisioning some of the materials and resources. So let me now take you through what is the circular economy in one page. If we look at why we implement the circular economy, the first is this resource efficiency. Human beings can work for more than 40 years. Machines can sometimes be used for 20, 30 years, but the resource we extract and put into product, we tend to throw that in the bins every 5 years, as I mentioned before. So the first goal is resource efficiency. But if we improve on resource efficiency, we also have positive benefits in terms of sustainability, reduction of climate change impact, and some less need for mines and extractions that also have impacts on the planet and societies in different parts of the world. Of course, circular economy is something that can help us diversify access to resources and can contribute to more resilience, reduce the level of risk we might have on the supply of raw materials. And this is also something that is going to call for major innovation in terms of materials, but also in terms of business model. So there is also some impact from an innovation and value creation standpoint. What is the circular economy? There's three dimensions associated with it. And the first one is we want to narrow, reduce the resource flow. We want to have less resources going into the economy. When there are resources going into the economy, we want to slow down the resource flow, keep them as long as possible in the economy. And when we have a third stage, we need to close the resource flow. We need to make sure that at the end of life of a product, of a component, of a material, we bringing back inside the economy. So we've got this dimension, and typically we have a number of R strategies going to refuse, reduce, to at the other end, the recycling, recovering that can that needs to be understood here as burning, getting energy out of the end-of-life product, and rethink that covers all the dimension. So we've got a number of strategies that we can use in order to implement that circular economy. If I take a simple example of a glass bottle, for instance, we could replace the glass bottle full of water with a water fountain and people going with their glass to get some water. Here we've been reducing drastically the need for glass bottle by switching to a totally different way of doing things. In the middle, we can see another strategy that aims to extend the usage of a product through over its life by reusing, returning and reusing a bottle many times. And closing the resource loop is recycling of the glass. What's important in terms of a picture is that the more we stay on the left, the bigger the impact is. At the end of the day, if we keep resources in the ground, that's the best way to use them. If we end up having to recycle, this is the less effective way of using the resources within a circular logic. So to get started, it can be quite easy. A few years ago, I delivered a training of 2 hours and a half to a group of people from a supplier in the automotive industry. We went through the different R, looked at a number of cases, gave some definition, and after that they implemented, as part of their sourcing process for equipment in production, they implemented a systematic step for looking at the circular economy opportunities within the equipment they bring in production. So this is not something that needs long education, complex understanding. This is something that we can implement through workshop with stakeholders, with suppliers quite quickly, so we can go and do it. This is something that we can rapidly and systematically implement. There's a number of obstacles and challenges to the circular economy. We tend to have a culture that favors small steps. We tend to say, hey, let's try and let's see how it works on maybe some side waste and side materials. I think at some point it's really important to look at the big picture and not to stay and look at complete industry. We'll come back on that. Access to data and getting the right information in order to understand the impact and to understand the effect in terms of cost is one of the factors. There's plenty of reasons behind that. Sometimes the environmental declarations is separate from the technical information, and there's a lot of challenge in terms of getting all the good data together sometime to be able to measure things and improve things. Scaling is key. We've seen in different sectors some platforms that have been appearing that helps to reuse, recycle some product. But sometimes at the end of the day, it looks more like a, like an eBay than a real industrial application. We need to get to a point where we can get volumes. So this is a viable solution for integrating that into our procurement practice. There could be some asymmetry of benefits. Not everybody is going to be making as much value out of the implementation of the circular economy. There will be winners and losers. And of course, some of them won't be pushed to, won't be incentivized to collaborate to the implementation because they will be reducing the volume of activities as part of the shift toward a circular economy. This will create need collaboration, especially with distant part from the value chain, from the raw material producer to the recycler, the component producer to the recycler. And today, this is not yet happening completely. Sometimes regulation, technology available are helping the implementation of the circular economy. Sometimes they can hinder the implementation of the circular economy. And we've got some labor market constraint. The good news is if we look at a region like Europe, the circular economy will mean more job because we will need to be able to recycle a lot of product within Europe, for instance. But we need people to be able to support this kind of waste management activities that are going to support the circular economy. And this could quickly become a bottleneck in terms of access to human resource that can help to deliver this change. So now I want to take you, to another dimension. There is a bigger picture. And as I mentioned before, we tend to look at a small project that are, side project compared to the complete flow within an industry when we start to implement the circular economy. And I think it's important to look at the bigger picture to understand how complete markets are going to be impacted by a circular economy logic. The case of the automotive industry is kind of an obvious choice because there's a lot of value, residual value at the end of life of a vehicle. And, this is one of the industry that you, together with construction and a few others, that requires a lot of raw materials. And so that's a very good case to look at. It's complex also supply chain. So I went into this and looked a little bit at the challenge. So if we think in terms of reaching net zero for the automotive industry, if today you switch to an electric vehicle, this is only going to reduce carbon emissions by 15%. Now, if we switch to green energy all over the world and, put green energy into renewable energy into cars, this will take another 55% out of emissions. And we'll still need, another 30% nearly of carbon emission reduced through the implementation of the circular economy. So that's one of the big factors, more important than the immediate switch to an electric vehicle, that we need to reach net zero into the automotive sector. So what we see today is a move from car manufacturer and battery manufacturer to reshape the automotive industry architecture. An industry architecture is simply a definition of who does what and who collaborates, who competes with whom across an industry. And what we see here is car manufacturer, battery manufacturer moving in, building agreement with supplier to implement the circular economy, and also being new collaboration and new agreement on the aftermarket side with the garage and the end-of-life recycler. So why? Why are they taking the lead? Why are they building a dismantling center? Why are they positioning themselves as the control tower of the circularity within the automotive industry? try to make things simple, but basically, if we think in terms of the automotive industry and we look at the bottom axis, it's challenging to recover all the cars and bring them in one place and to be able to access them. But if we look at the x-axis on the left side, there's a lot of residual value that can be used in a car at the end of life. There's some components that can be refurbished, remanufactured. There's all the raw material that can be recovered. And therefore, there's a lot of opportunities for car manufacturer to move into a situation where they position themselves as a control tower for the industry, that they design the product for circularity, they create incentives to get vehicles and parts back to them, and then they orchestrate the circular flows. They orchestrate the remanufacturing, the recycling activities themselves. There's other situation. I'm not going to go into detail into this matrix, but this is simply to show that we are in a situation where there is a lot of incentives, a lot of value creation opportunities for battery manufacturer and car OEMs to do this. And this can be illustrated by a number of quotes I've been gathering from executive in the automotive industry. The first one is reducing dependencies on raw material. So the ability to look into dismantling center to access raw materials compared to opening new mines is something that reduce dependencies, reduce volatility, and therefore is beneficial for the car manufacturer. We've got here a number of quotes coming from BMW, Tesla, saying exactly the same thing. It's better to recycle than to mine, and some battery manufacturers like CATL. We also have the cost and the energy, the cost of the raw material and the cost of energy, that's reduced by implementing a circular flow. Again, you've got a number of quotes from Stellantis, from Renault, from BMW, and that's showing that we have a lot of opportunities to extract implement some saving through the implementation of the circular economy in this industry. And the final is I was talking about innovation earlier, and the possibility to implement new revenue opportunities by being able to bring back some of the components and then to refurbish, put them back to a level where they can be reintegrated in cars. There are a lot of sales opportunities, and there's already Renault's talking about 120 millions in 2019, and there's some companies that are talking about some substantial billions of dollars of revenue being made by 2030 from these circular flows. So in a nutshell, this is an industry where there are a lot of benefits from an economic standpoint to implement the circular economy, and they're implemented what I describe as a very tightly integrated architecture, where the OEMs, the battery manufacturers are trying to control all the flows of the circular economy, because there's a lot of opportunity for them to benefit from this change. So that's something important to have in mind. What does it mean to switch in the automotive sector to the circular economy? This means eliminating waste all along, from the factories to the workshops, the garage. We need to have very efficient operations where scrap waste is systematically eliminated everywhere. This is one of the easiest, I would say, practice that you can implement. This means a switch to electric vehicles and a switch to an electric infrastructure. with grids and chargers and green energy production that can support the industry and all the cars. And then a whole set of practice. On the left side, if we look at raw materials, component provider, the switch to renewable energy, moving to recycled materials, low emission materials. On the right side, we need to have at the end of life of the product, the recycler that are able to disassemble, to sort, to establish some reverse logistics. So in the middle, we can have car manufacturer together with the aftermarket services and their component provider. They can work on eco-design, making everything modular, easy to repair, easy to reuse, easy to recycle for the future. In order to implement this, we need extensive data sharing. This means that companies that do not talk to each other on a regular basis, from the, I would say, the upstream of the industry to the downstream of the industry, they need to exchange data. They need to contribute data to a broader, I would say, data ecosystem that helps everybody make an improvement toward a circular economic model over time. And digital product passport with any car in the future, we would need to have information associated, so we know what to do at the end of life or when there's a repair, and there's a passport that's unique for every car that helps to understand what can be done with all the parts, the components over time, what type of material there is, how easy they are to be dismantled and to be reintegrated in the economy. And there will be also a need to switch in order to become really circular to a component as a service, selling the battery as a service, for instance, or selling mobility as a service or leasing subscription. The challenge for the automotive companies is to be able to put their hands on more cars. Through their own garage, through their agreement, they're able to keep track and keep control maybe of less than 50% of the vehicles they've been initially producing. If we're moving to a different way of selling and moving to a rental logic or moving to a subscription logic, they would be able to maximize the number of vehicles they could reintegrate and scale the volume for the circular economy. Another way would be to have the governmental authorities to impose responsibility on OEMs, on battery manufacturers, for instance, on the product at the end of life. So this would force everyone to organize the flow so the automotive companies would be getting back maybe 90%, 95% of the vehicles by the end of life. So this is absolutely essential in order to scale. Also, it is essential to have smaller fit-for-purpose vehicle because we have big cars with a lot of materials, sometimes to do local rides and things like this. So we need to improve the resource efficiency of our economy and society, and this will need this type of a switch. So that's all the changes that we need to implement in order to reach a situation of circularity. And the outcome of this could be quite significant and important. We see that if we go ahead, we will have a massive number of cars that will be needed in the years to come. And if we implement the circular economy completely, we would be in a situation where there will be less car on the road than today. So the impact can be massive. If we don't do anything, we'll need a lot of cars on the market in the future if we consider that we keep driving the same amount of miles or kilometers every year. So we see we're talking here about very significant impact in terms of on the number of vehicles on the road, but we're also talking about very significant impact on how the industry is organized and the volume that can be produced. There's a lot of question associated with this. It's a massive amount of change for an industry that has been operating according to the same model for many, many years. Can it become a win-win for everyone across the industry? The answer is no. There will be winners, losers. There will be some that will be much more than others. How to govern these changes, how to make sure nobody can do it alone. It can't be one actor that's able to bring all this change alone. And car manufacturers will need to be trusted by their partner. They will need to find ways to embark them into these changes. And there will be also public policies, regulation, and that could contribute to slow down or to accelerate this transformation. So it's really a multi-year change landscape that's going to be challenging to implement. But if we don't go there, there will be a bumping into other difficulties that might prevent the growth that's described here in terms of industry. So I think it's important to have that in mind. We need to understand for an industry what the future can look like from a circular point of view, and who are the ones that are going to benefit the most from it. Are we going to have a situation where a few companies that are already in the industry are going to be orchestrating the circular flows? Or are we in a situation where, everybody is going to benefit, but I don't know, if I'm a fork manufacturer, I'm not going to be the one who's going to orchestrate the flow. It will be much more distributed. The recycler will be able to use and recycle the product at the end. So there will be a different way of organizing the industry. So very important message here. We need to understand what's the bigger impact of this transformation, of these changes on the economies we are operating in, not simply looking at a piece of raw material here and there. The bigger picture is going to be very important. I've seen some companies in the automotive sector that are component manufacturers trying to implement a circular logic, but if they don't consider the broader transformation, they can't really implement something that's going to be really useful. In fact, they will be working more with the OEM, the car manufacturer, that will be orchestrating the flows in order to implement the circular economy, than directly with, I would say, the aftermarket and other players. So need to understand how industry evolved towards circular architecture before launching some project. Okay. Now let's get into 6 initiatives procurement can lead. This is the result of research that have been conducted. I've been looking at more than 25 projects, trying to understand what is it, how they work, and what's inside from a circular point of view. And I've conducted interviews in the automotive, but also in other industry to understand, what's the role of procurement, what are the opportunities from a procurement standpoint. So this is the six initiative. I've structured them, just to reflect really the type of actions. I've got multiple projects that have been supporting each of these initiatives. There's the need to systematically search for alternative materials, and this is very often associated to reduce, reuse, and sometimes recycle. There's the collaboration on circular business model that aims to implement opportunities to better remanufacture, refurbish, recycle some of the product often. There's the integration of supplier into eco-design activities in order to implement circular flows for some product. Also favoring the adoption of renewable energy throughout the supply chain. This is more a reduce the emissions associated with the product. And digital product passport, access to information, data sharing is an important type of project we need to implement, and procurement has a role to play. And a broader, waste elimination type of practice that can be implemented in companies. So What I've seen, where procurement has played a role in the circular economy, fits into one of these boxes. Some of them can be mutually supportive and reinforce each other. But that's a good way to break down into a number of different elements the circular economy from a procurement standpoint. The first one is the search, and I insist on the word systematically. Systematic search for alternative materials. I think I've got a few messages here to prepare for the world that's coming in front of us. We need to invest in market intelligence. We need to have much more access to information on raw materials, and we need to share that internally in companies. If our position is very close to raw materials in a value chain, this is something that you probably do already. But even if you are a cosmetic company, for instance, or making goods that are consumed by everyone every day, we need to have that understanding of raw material markets, and we need to have that information. This is absolutely essential. We need to massify the search for alternatives. We can't just project by project look for an alternative to an existing raw material. We need to find a way of going to the market to make a big change. And I would say all of us, we should build a database of multiple substitutes that we could be looking into, and what would be the cost of switching from one substitute to another. The future is uncertain, and the day Apple decides to only use the recycled plastic for their phones, suddenly the market for recycled plastic is going through a boom, and what was maybe affordable yesterday becomes very expensive. So this can force us to switch again from time to time, depending on the evolution of the market. So having a database and being able to understand the cost of switching between one raw material to another is really a foundation that can help us become more resilient and become more sustainable, and addressing some of the elements here. We need to team up with suppliers and other partners in order to make this happen. Two examples I can give you here. And the first one is a company in Portugal that's in the wine business. The head of procurement looked at the life cycle analysis on bottles of wine they were producing. And so, a big part was coming from the glass bottle. That person went to the glass bottle manufacturer, asked the supplier, could we switch to more recycled glass? And the bottle producer said it's going to cost more because in Portugal at that time there was not enough recycled glass, and they needed to import it from England. So the person decided to push beyond and try to understand why there's not so much recycled glass in Portugal. And this led to the implementation of an association with European fund that helps support small bars and restaurants to move to recycling. And that's really, going on the demand side, not just on the supply side, in order to facilitate access to more raw material of the future here, recycled glass. So that's one example I find interesting, because you end up with a leadership initiative which is going well beyond looking at supplier in order to secure access to recycled materials for your product. Another case, I was talking about the importance to massify. There's a food company in Italy. At some point, they look at all their packaging, and they came up with a complete list of raw material they were using for all their packaging. This was a very long list. And then they consulted the market in one go. They went to everyone they could know on the market and says, this is the whole list of raw materials that we use in our packaging. Can you suggest some alternatives that would be recyclable, that could have a better impact for each of them? And by doing so, they were giving a message to the market they were serious about the switch and that there were business opportunities for them. So instead of going project by project, this is a great way to start building the database I was mentioning before. And if you massify, it might cost a bit more for a few products, but maybe on other ones, you'll also be able to reduce the cost by making the switch, looking at the world with new glasses. So this can be an interesting way forward. Another one is the implementation of a circular business model. And very often this is very important to have a very strong internal collaboration and external collaboration in order to implement this new circular business model. I think we shouldn't be waiting for specifiers of product and to have the great idea about implementing circularity. We need to map opportunities. We need to understand how the markets are evolving. What are the technologies that are becoming available that can support the circular shift? And then we can go to the business and propose some new ideas in order to make the shift and create benefits for the company. And in some occasion, this can lead to coordination of multiple suppliers to work on some of these projects. What's very important is the ability to look at the impact, but also to look at the TCO models. We had a presentation in one of our events last week of one of the company here that's in the printing business, where in order to remanufacture some of the cartridge for printers in Europe, they had to put together a group of 10 people that were working on a TCO model that was helping to compare different solutions. Only by having that level of details, but these people, they were able to identify not just a cost comparison, but also the opportunities to reduce the cost that led to the relocalization of activities for cartridge refill in Europe, remanufacturing in fact, and having a positive economic benefit out of the implementation of the circular economy. The second case is a company who's making spirituous, and one of the things they sell to their clients is like a bowl where you can put a lot of bottles for nightclubs or for hotels. And the buyer saw the opportunity of offering the possibility to rent these instead of selling them, saw the opportunity to establish a circular flow with the manufacturer to repair rapidly some of these, and so by integrating digital technologies, and went to the business to make this proposal as, hey, you know what, we could be making this shift into the future. So I think, this is an important message that we shouldn't be waiting, but we can be pushing for some of this change to happen by making proposal at the right time to the right people in order to advance some of the circular economy. So take the lead. The third one is about renewable energy. So favoring the adoption of renewable energy throughout the supply chain. In past webinar, we've been talking about the shift to net zero and decarbonization. There's two case studies I wanted to share with you here. One is a company in China. They were making raw materials that were going into the tires, and at some point, in a very practical ways, the head of procurement and supply chain on this site, they had a lot of pressure to do a lot in terms of environmental standards within their factory. The person put an ad in the local newspaper asking if anyone around them had some renewable source of renewable energy that they could be using. And actually, they discovered that one of their neighbor, another factory, had a lot of biomass that could be burned and could serve to create energy for their factories. So that's what they did it. They looked for renewable energy, very local, within the industrial district, in order to make that switch. Another case, at a very different scale, and not just a factory, but on a broader scale. It's a machinery manufacturer. They make very big equipments. A lot of it is about bending metal parts and shaping metal parts. And basically, they ask their supplier to switch to green energy in order to reduce the carbon impact. And that's a way to switch to renewables. And that's a way to implement the circular economy as well. So what's important here, understanding what drives greenhouse gas emissions. Sometimes create a supplier development program that can guide on switching to a new energy source that are more renewable. And sometimes, join forces with other industry players. For instance, a company like Apple has been collaborating with 10 suppliers to invest in new renewable energy sources, putting some of green bonds into the production of energy. So they don't just take from the classic amount that's produced, but they also contribute to produce more, so that supports their own supplier in accessing additional green energy on the market. So an important type of project that can also be led by procurement. Another one is about waste elimination. This is something that procurement can create an initiative together with maybe the operational excellence team in a company, and systematically map within all the sites all the waste that are being produced, and in some cases treat them locally, but also treat them sometime together with a supplier. Be systematic in mapping waste. Focus on procurement should focus on the waste where supplier can contribute to the solution. Sometimes it will be easy to find a solution with existing supplier. Sometimes we need to look beyond the obvious for this type of situation. One example I can share is a chemical company. For many years, they were paying to get to dispose of some of the waste. And this was costing them money to get rid of some of the byproducts that were produced in the factories. And what was interesting here is a buyer started to look at what alternatives they can do to reduce that cost. And basically, they realized that on site, they had an equipment they could use to transform the waste into something they could sell back to some of their suppliers. So this was looking a little bit beyond the classic habit of paying for eliminating waste. In fact, they had in their own facility the ability to transform that into something they could sell. Within big industrial companies, this is something that exists, and there are opportunities for this type of things. Another case is a company making consumer products. And they've been producing a lot of waste. They couldn't find any way to get rid of them within their production. And at some point, they decided to go on a crowdsourcing platform. They said, we have that problem. They were looking for ideas. And they said, we have this problem in terms of waste being produced. Who's on earth got a solution that could help us? And what their local engineering department had not been able to do, through this means of broadly asking for support from anyone in the world through open innovation platform, crowdsourcing platform, they were able to identify an opportunity again to turn that waste into some value. So this is something that's not just about reducing some of the cost of waste. That's not just about reducing waste, but that's often an opportunity to turn waste into something you can sell, and contributing to generate some revenue also from that point of view. Digital product passport, this might be something a bit new to some of you in terms of initiative. We will not be able to implement a circular economy if we don't have access, if all the actors don't have access to the right information at the right time. The idea of a digital product passport is the idea of having associated with any product with some information that can help understand the composition of the raw materials, but also what to do at the end of life. One of the cases I've been sharing a few times recently is the one of an hold for a climbing gym. So these climbing holds are made of plastic, and some of these plastic are not cannot be recycled. But if you switch to thermoplastic, suddenly you can recycle the thermoplastic 10 times. So there's a company who's designing the holes. There's another company who's actually creating these thermoplastic, and then there is a gym where you have the climbing hole that are installed. So what they did, they associated a QR code with each of the climbing holes, and at the end of life, when the gym wants to get rid of it, they can scan the QR code and they can print a return slipper. So basically, like when you have a product from an e-commerce and you want to return it, you print, you put that on the box, and the cost of shipping it back is covered by this, and then the climbing gym can send back directly, and it's paid to the raw material manufacturer, the climbing holes, so it can be retransformed into granulates and reintegrated into new climbing holes. So that picture of a flow that's quite simple with information that's following the holes because it's associated with a QR code that helps to close the loop is a good illustration of what we need to implement on a broader scale. In the automotive industry, you see, for instance, companies like BMW that are actively supporting the implementation of a data sharing infrastructure that would be supporting a number of use cases. It's called Catena X, and not just circular economy, but the circular economy is part of this broader initiative on establishing new data sharing infrastructure. This calls for collaboration across industry. It's important to maintain the data sovereignty. Nobody wants their data to go away. So basically, you can structure things in such a way where data stays on the server of each company, but through the system of identifier, it's accessible to other companies or members of the supply chain. And there can be rules about who can access for what purpose some of these information. So you can have a governance of the access to the data that's implemented. We need to move to industry-wide solutions. For this, we can't have multiple standards for each manufacturer. We need to move to something that's going to be a standard for everyone. And we need to push for data sharing. Today, we're still very much against sharing any kind of information because of, there could be sensitive information, or if you take two pieces of information, this gives you some views about what you plan to use in the coming years. We need to understand where it's a challenge and how to address this challenge, but we need to move to further data sharing. Otherwise, we won't be able to implement a circular economy. It's as simple as that. To give you an example, and this is something you can find. This is a bench made of wood and made of steel. There's a QR code you can see on the picture that's associated to the bench. It gives you a number of information about the composition of the bench, and what has been the route taken by all of the elements, so for wood and steel, and some information about some of the certification. It can also include some what to do at the end of life. You can separate the different parts. The other initiative sometime. So we need the support of supplier. This is a way of bringing some innovation, and that can be used on product, that can be used on capex. We will be looking at multiple options because there are different levers we can use from an eco-design standpoint in order to improve things. we can also need to do some extensive TCO analysis. And one thing that I want to say is it's not always more expensive. And so don't always believe that doing eco-design, that switching raw materials is going to be more expensive. There's plenty of situations where there's actually some economic benefit of this. One of the case studies is a company in the water industry. They were doing parts for the infrastructure. And what they've done, they took a lot of the infrastructure parts and they've been switching from metals to some polymers and composite materials. They've done that systematically with the supplier, with the client that needed to validate. They did this eco-design. There's been multiple impact. Overall, the TCO was positive for this, calculating all the dimension of the cost for many of the product. It was a positive TCO. And then it also reduced the weight, so there was less injuries in terms of there were less injuries for the people that were carrying and installing their parts. And there were products that would be lasting longer because they were more resistant to chemicals, they were more resistant to a number of damage. So if you take, and also they've assessed and that they were able to keep 10,000 jobs within Europe by making this switch. When you have a company that's building infrastructure for municipalities, this is a very important message they can give to their client that they keep some of the job more local, or at least within a certain economic entity that's next to their clients. So plenty of cases, plenty of strategies that you can implement in order to switch to a circular economy. I've been grouping them by 6 types in order to speak the language of the buyer. I've been giving you examples. I've been giving you some advice, recommendation on how to make all of these effective. I need to finish with a final message on this matter. My final advice, the most important one, probably in order to unleash the power of the circular economy, but also unleash the power of procurement organization, is to position procurement as a knowledge hub. Okay, in the past, long time ago, most of us, we were here to negotiate and establish contracts. We've moved to a function that's able to manage big, important project, develops longer term strategies. Our ability to create more value, our ability to influence the evolution of industries, our ability to influence our internal stakeholders, are sizing these opportunities, our ability to have an impact in terms of value creation of the company depends on how much we dare to create spaces where we share new ideas and information with stakeholders. And what's really important here is to help stakeholders internally visualize all the changes in the market, in adjacent market, what are new digital solutions that can support the implementation of circular practice, decarbonization. We are uniquely positioned in the company to give access to everyone to this type of information. We need to make it ritual. We need to make it systematic. Like every quarter you have an event, maybe a virtual one, a physical one from time to time. Make sure that you position yourself as a knowledge hub, as a way to access information about the evolution of markets, about opportunities to decarbonize, opportunities to innovate. This will be the way for us to influence, make sure that we can bring some new ideas on the table and make a difference. This means we need to have curiosity, look under the hoods of many industries to understand its future, looking deeper than existing supplier. And also, when we think of circular economy implementation, bring more systemic change, because There will be a lot of impacts. Sometimes we need to have multiple suppliers involved in implementing some project to make a change. And we'll have to build the momentum, the engagement. So we'll need people that will be able to bring this more systemic change. Sometimes the way of cutting things into categories won't be relevant. We have to be able to create project that goes across category that can make a difference from a circular economy implementation. And most important point is we need to position ourselves as a source of knowledge, as a knowledge hub that can share new ideas, that expose stakeholders to opportunities. We need to, get them thinking and make sure that, little by little, this is making its way and that some of the change can happen. Thank you. That was a fairly long presentation. I had a lot to say, I realize, on the topic. We'll be running some training, starting new courses. You can do quick, rapidly, and you can do some very impacting things over time. So I think that's a very important topic. Frédéric, you have some questions for me? Can you read them?
I understand most benefits. I struggle to understand what are the revenues opportunities.
Revenue opportunities are coming mainly from, let's say, some of the R, like recycling. If you are a car manufacturer, you bring the car at the end of life back to your dismantling center. There's two things. There's you can sell back some of the raw materials like aluminium to your aluminium producer. And that can, take out some of the cost on the other side of the aluminium, but you can sell it back. Also, another revenue opportunity, maybe to remanufacture, refurbish. So you take a product, you repair it, and then you put it back on the market and you sell it again on the market. Many years ago, I had one of my students working on this type of a situation, and instead of throwing to the bin some project, they said, how much would it cost to recalibrate some of these equipment and selling them back on the market? And actually, the cost of recalibrating was 15% compared to the cost of building a new one. So they realized that they had gold in the garbage. They could take back some of this equipment and refurbish them, put them back to a good standard, and sell them again on the market. And so these are some of the revenue opportunities you can get from a circular economy. Also, you can switch a business model. Instead of selling something, instead of selling a product, you can sell it as a service, and that can have also some commercial implication, change of business model that creates revenue opportunities that are a bit different. Another question, Fred?
No.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed. It gave you a broad view, but also some depth on some of the elements that we need to implement. As I said, it's easy to get started. It's more challenging to get to, this kind of automotive big picture that I've described, but very quickly we can equip people with what they need to do to make things happen. And the challenge is not purely the education, but is keep learning, creating a community of buyers who exchange more and more on how to make this happen, who motivate each other. And I think there's a fundamental important opportunity for procurement on the circular economy and to position itself as a source of knowledge. That's it. So we have courses on sustainability, on decarbonation. We'll be launching a new course on circular economy next year. This will be available as public course. We can also create short courses internally to company. So don't hesitate to consult us if you're interested to make a move in that direction. This will be with pleasure that we'll be working with some of you. Thank you so much. Hope it's been useful to you. See you very soon with the following webinar.